Hi, everybody. My name is Linda Abraham. I'm the president and founder of Accepted, and I'm going to be presenting round 3 versus next year. When should you apply? I want to first of all start off by thanking you very much for joining me. I'm looking forward to sharing my 25 years of admissions consulting experience with you during the next hour. Before we begin, I want to mention a few to-dos that will help you maximize your time here and one that will help us improve the webinars. First, if you have not yet downloaded your webinar worksheet, take a second to do so. You can find it in the handout panel of your control panel, the handout section of your control panel, rather. My suggestion to you is that you actually download it and print it out, and you can use it to take notes, but obviously you can use it in whatever way you want. Now, I'm going to ask questions during in the course of the presentation. This is really going to be a workshop, and I will use the question window for both your questions and your answers. So, be ready to both use that window for questions and for answers. I'm also going to ask a few questions during the presentation and ask you to raise your hand in response. You can do so by clicking on the hand icon, 2 icons underneath the horizontal orange arrow on your control panel. Those are the first 3 to-dos. The fourth one is we're going to have a contest at the end of the webinar, and you can win. We'll have during this contest, I'll pose a question. It'll be based solely on content presented during the webinar, so stay tuned. When you leave, you'll receive a brief survey. Please fill it out. I read all the survey responses, and we value your feedback. As a matter of fact, this webinar is a direct result of feedback that we received from webinar participants in the past. Now, I'd like to test your hand-raising skill. Please raise your hand. That means click on that hand icon if you are here because business school will whisk you on the way to the career of your dreams. Okay, the overwhelming majority of you have found the hand icon and are here for the right reasons. Okay, good. Now, I'd also like to get to know a little bit about my audience before we start. So can you please tell me where you are located? City and state in the United States, city and country outside the United States. I'll read a sample of the responses. Miami, Florida. Chicago, Bangalore, India, King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, all over. San Diego, California. Almost a neighbor. I'm in Los Angeles. Is it as soggy there as it is here, Andy? London, UK. Okay. Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Whoa, we really have an international crowd here. Cape Town, South Africa. All right. So we have Europe, the Middle East, Africa, Asia, North America. I didn't see anybody from South America. Delhi. Okay. All right. So again, nice international crowd. Uncharacteristically wet and cold. Yeah, same here. I'm in Los Angeles again. Okay. Yeah, I'm in a very rainy, wet, damp Los Angeles, California. I also want to post a poll. Which best describes you? I think I should describe almost all of you. Option 1 is applying for the first time round 3 or next year. Option 2 is applied round 1 or round 2 of this cycle. And option 3 is applied previously but not this year. Okay. We're at 74% having voted. Can we get up over 80%? Okay, again, the options are applying for the first time round 3 or next year, applied round 1 or round 2 of this cycle. And I'm going to close the poll, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, with 89% having voted. Fantastic audience. All right, so 71% are trying to decide whether to apply for the first time round 3 or next year. 29% applied round 1 or round 2 of this cycle, and nobody applied earlier than that. Okay, good. Thank you for that. Okay, let's move on. Now, this is the time of year when I get lots and lots of questions. For example, I applied, as approximately 30% of you, I applied and was rejected at my first choice schools. I guess I just wasn't qualified. Now I want to apply to lower ranked schools. Should I try for round 3 or wait until next year? Another typical question at this time of year for me. Life got in the way of applying, or I just got the GMAT score I wanted. The first time I took it, I messed up. I had to take it later. I have my recommendations lined up. I know I want to get an MBA and where I want to go. Should I apply round 3 or wait? Now, before we move into the meat of today's webinar and the content I really want to convey, I want to lay out some parameters. Sometimes my webinars are very prescriptive, almost recipe-like. These are the 4 steps you must take. I try and give clear steps, clear instructions, very actionable. Other times, however, the nuances of MBA admissions, combined with the complexities of life, and not to mention individual situations. And I really can't do more than raise issues and give guidelines. And that's today's kind of webinar, the second kind, the kind where I raise issues and give you some guidelines. What I want to do and plan to do in the next 45 minutes or so is shine a spotlight on the issues you should consider as you decide whether to apply round 3 or wait until next year. I'm going to ask for your assistance several points throughout the webinar. Again, I plan this to be more of a worksheet than a presentation, workshop than a presentation. And that's why I wanted you to be, again, exercised and wide awake. But again, don't get too comfortable. I'm going to need your assistance. Now, and I'm going to start right now. What are some of the differences between round 3, round 4, let's say later round applications, and earlier round applications? In the question window, what would you say are some of the more common differences? Okay, most of the seats are filled up. Vanille, that's correct. Anything else? Anybody else want to? Acceptance rates go down. That's true. At most schools, that's true. The timing of the deadlines, well, the timing of deadlines is kind of what the timing of the deadlines is. Diversity applicants are filled too. I think you are. I think I understand what you're saying there. I think you're right. I think diversity, people who the schools perceive as adding diversity to the class will probably still be very seriously considered. All right. Okay. Here's what I would say. And Vanilla got the first one. There are simply, in the earlier rounds, the class is wide open. There are very few seats are taken. The world is your oyster, basically, in the early rounds. In later rounds, the class looks very different. Most of the seats are taken. And frankly, what they're looking for in the later rounds is much more diversity or outstanding performance. You are less likely to get merit aid if you apply to a round 3 or round 4 application. So if merit aid is really important to you, then you might be better off waiting. Sometimes on-campus housing will be taken by the time you get an answer. You may not be able to attend an admit weekend. In fact, you probably won't be able to attend an admit weekend. And if you're international, and many of you are, it could be harder for international students to get visas on time. And it's very, very frustrating, if not heartbreaking, to actually get accepted to the school you want and then find out that you can't get a visa in time to attend. So those are some indications that would indicate you should wait till fall of next year to apply. What do you think are some indications that would indicate you should apply now? In the question window, please. Any idea? I guess you want me to supply those? Okay, what are indications you should apply round 3? Large improvement in the GMAT since prior round deadlines. That would be good, but it would also be your GMAT score in relationship to the average GMAT score and the GMAT range of the schools you're applying to. Your application is already almost ready from applying to an earlier round. That's definitely a factor. If you can substantiate the delay, you know, the trouble with attempting to substantiate the delay is not that I don't think they really care. What they want to know is why you want to go now, not so much why you didn't apply before. Underrepresented background. Yeah. Again, you're adding to the diversity of the class. Okay, good. Here are my reasons. And William, you got the first one. You're really, really ready. You have a competitive GMAT in grades, and I think Andy also hit on this one. You have a clear goal. You know which schools you want to apply to, why you want to apply to them. You really, really want to go this year, and you're willing to spend time and money now, even for a potentially reduced chance of acceptance, in order to have some chance of starting in September. In other words, you're very realistic. You have good reasoning, you're ready, you're primed, and you're also realistic. Rini, that was actually Puyan hit on the other element. You have diversity elements in your profile. And that can be ethnic, which is what most people think of, but it can also be experiential, regional, professional diversity elements. There's something about you that is exceptional, that says you will really add to the class and to the school's community. Another potential reason that you should apply now is that you simply aimed too high round 1 or round 2, and about 30% of you might be in this bucket. And you're now aiming at programs that accept a larger percentage of their class in later rounds. And this is true of schools that are roughly outside the top 20. Also realize that no school has a round 3 with the sole purpose of rejecting everyone who applies. So Harvard recently, this year, did away with its round 3. It just found it wasn't very good for it, except for the 2+2. Those are the only ones applying to a round 3 in air quotes for HBS. But other schools have a round 3, and MIT Sloan, actually, I think it was only 2 or 3 years ago, added the round 3, and they're getting great applicants in it, and they are accepting some applicants in it. So while chances may be reduced for round 3 applications, and this is what I've heard from tons of admissions directors over the years, and I've interviewed many, no school has a round 3 to reject everyone who applies. Okay, at this point, are there any questions? If there are questions, please post them in the question window. Somebody just says that she can't hear. Is anybody else having trouble hearing me? Okay, great. Any questions at this point? If not, I'll go on. Great. All right, I'm going to go on. Okay, here are some indications that you should wait until, well, actually, before I give you mine, what are indications that you should wait until next year? In the question window, please, which is basically the answer window from what I can see. If you have questions, by the way, even at a point in time when I haven't asked for them, just post them in the question window and we'll get back to them later. But my question for you folks right now is, what are indications that you should wait until next year in the question window? You have a plan on how to improve before the next cycle. Excellent, William. You want to retake the GMAT. Good. Good, Priscilla. Half-baked application and trying not to rush it. That would be a good reason. Good. Need for fellowships. Excellent. No time for essays. Absolutely. Ooh, you are a great audience. Okay, let me give you my ideas. The first one is, there's the first one. You're unhappy with your stats. Okay? You want to retake the GMAT. Which was what Priscilla said. Maybe your GPA wasn't something that you're proud of. You want to take some classes and earn A's before you actually apply. But as my unhappy grandchild indicated several years ago, you're just not happy. Another reason for postponing is you are currently stressed at work and you really don't have time to apply. As somebody said, you don't want to turn in half-baked essays or a half-baked application, as Rini, right? You don't want to have to rush it. Or as Arun Kumar said, you don't have time for the essays. So in that case, it makes sense to wait until next year. Another reason to wait is you are from an overrepresented group and have no discernible diversity elements, no obvious diversity elements. If you do, that would be a reason to wait, because if at the beginning of the year they are looking for qualified people, they definitely will accept people from overrepresented groups. Another reason would be you're on the low side in terms of experience. I feel that the next 6 months will give you a lot of growth and increased responsibility. 6 months or even more than 6 months if you apply round 2. Your post-MBA goals and the reasons for applying to specific schools are fuzzy and shallow. That would be a reason to wait and clarify both your short-term and long-term goals and your reasons for applying to the schools, perhaps visiting some schools. You fear that even if accepted, you will have trouble getting your visa and financing before the start of school. as I mentioned a minute ago, it's heartbreaking to work hard to get accepted to the school of your dreams and then not be able to get financing and or not be able to get a visa. So plan that out, okay? And if you think your chances of getting the visa, of not getting a visa at all or not getting the financing in order are high, strongly urge you to wait till round 1 of next year. All right, I'd like to shift gears a little bit and apply the principles I've laid out to some specific situations. And it's time to put on your admissions consultant hat. And let's go through a few examples. These are all made up. They're completely fictional, but they are based on, as I said, 25 years of experience. So meet Mei Chang. Mei decided last week she wants to go for an MBA. She has 1 year of full-time work experience and hates her accounting job. She hasn't yet taken the GMAT. She wants to go to Harvard, Stanford, or Wharton. She attended UC Berkeley and got a 3.3 GPA, majoring in Asian studies. She's not sure what she wants to do after her MBA. Now, I'd like you to raise your hand, that's that hand icon that I mentioned a minute ago, if you think Mei should apply round 3. Oh, we got a good audience here. Okay, only 3% of you think that she should apply, and I agree with you. She should not apply round 3. In my view, she's nowhere near being ready. Now, any idea what she should do to prepare herself to apply successfully? In the question window, please. What should she do to prepare herself to apply successfully? Hi, GMAT, good. Prepare for the GMAT. Oh, a lot of you like that one. Planning, take the GMAT, good. Okay, we're all focused on the GMAT. You got that. Visit schools, that's one possibility. Define post-MBA goals. Good, Andy. That's what I was looking for. Speak to post-MBA friends, understand the scope of her future job, increase work experience, additional work experience. Very good. I think that additional work experience will definitely help her in the admissions process. She's at the very, very low end and would be at a tremendous disadvantage, even if everything else was lined up. But in addition, she should research her career options in schools. And my suggestion would be to her to change jobs to something she thinks she will like better and will move her closer to whatever long-term goal she settles on. And as most of you said, prepare for and take the GMAT. There's no need for her to continue working at this job that she hates. She already knows she's gotten something out of it already in terms of learning the language of business, which is accounting. She's gotten some good experience. Let her move to something that has the potential to show her this is my desired career, or if that doesn't work out, this is what I don't want to do. She needs to find that out, and she needs to clarify that goal before she goes for an MBA. Okay, the next case study. Jorge. Jorge is a Mexican engineer working for Pemex, the Mexican oil monopoly. He's done so for the last 5 years. He has had steady promotions and manages 6 other engineers. He got his bachelor's with a 3.4 GPA and his master's in engineering with a 3.6 GPA, both from USC. He wants to go into strategy consulting with a focus on the energy industry, and he also has some analytics experience. He's very confident he can get good recommendations. He's not at all concerned about visa issues for whatever reason. He has a 730 GMAT, fairly balanced. He plays soccer on a regular basis and has been the team captain. He's applying to MIT Sloan, Kellogg, UT Austin, Haas, Ross, and Duke. Or he's preparing to apply to those schools. Should he apply round 3? What do you think? Raise your hand if he should apply round 3. Okay, so we have almost half of you saying he should apply round 3. And I would agree with you. He should, right. I would agree with you entirely there. And I'll tell you why I think so. He has, coming from Mexico, he has diversity elements. He's highly competitive in terms of his GMAT and GPA. He has interesting experience. He has leadership experience. The schools he's applying to are appropriate given his goals. He has everything lined up and raring to go. Okay, let's go to the next case study. Okay? Ajay. He graduated from the University of Mumbai with a 70% and a BTech degree. He worked for Infosys for 3 years in India. He's had promotions and good recommendations, all in programming. He is now a team lead. He has a 690 GMAT. He wants to go into investment banking after his MBA and from there into private equity and venture capital. He has very limited community service. He's a member of a bunch of organizations, a leader in none. He wants to apply to Haas, Chicago, Stanford, NYU Stern, and Columbia. Should he apply round 3? Raise your hand, please, if you think he should. Raise your hand, please, if you think he should apply round 3. Okay. About 20% of you think he should apply round 3. That would imply that 80% of you think he shouldn't apply round 3. And I'm with those who think that he should not. He is from an overrepresented group as a male Indian engineer. His leadership experience is very weak. And for the schools that he's applying to and the demographic that he is coming from, his 690 GMAT is low. And he could have problems with getting a visa to attend. So I would advise him to wait until round 1 of next year. I would also encourage him to try and move into business role at work, a less technical role, and also do something that would show him preparing himself and having a serious interest in financial services. I don't know if he's investing in stocks on the side, maybe consider taking the first exam of the CFA, and again, try and improve his leadership. All those things would enhance his profile and really prepare him for a successful application round 1 of next year. Okay, let's move to the next case study. Mary. Mary is a West Point graduate. She had a 3.1 at West Point and graduated in 2014. Now, what you may not realize is that West Point is a school without grade inflation, and a 3.1 at West Point is probably comparable to a 3.5, this is my personal opinion, at most other top programs. She has a 710 GMAT. She served in Afghanistan, and she's getting out of the military in April. She wants to apply to Yale School of Management, Duke, Darden, Georgetown, Cornell, Johnson, Ross, and USC. Her goal is to go into international development because some of her work in the military was related to that, and general management. She really, really wants to start in September 2019. That'll give her a break in between the Army and the start of school. So she's very, very motivated and has good reason for wanting to do that. Raise your hand if you think she should apply round 3. Raise your hand if you think Mary should apply round 3. Okay, we're at 52% thinking that she should apply round 3, and I agree with you. She should apply round 3. I guess 48% disagree, but let me tell you why I think she should. She has a very distinctive background. A woman who graduated from West Point, did well there, served in Afghanistan, served in the military. The military provides tons of leadership experience, serious responsibility, obviously international exposure. Again, the school she's applying to align with her goals. Her experience align with her goals. And I think she would be somebody. And she really, really has good reason to want to start in 2019 and not wait. So I would encourage Mary to apply round 3. Now, let's go ahead. I promised a contest at the beginning, and we're going to have it now. I'm going to give away 2 free 15-minute MBA admissions consultations to the first 2 people who answer this question correctly, and it can be with me. What are 2 indications I discussed today that you should apply round 3? Please post it in the question window. 2 indications that you should apply round 3. In the same answer, please, same box, because otherwise I'm going to mess up. Okay, let's see. Reason to apply soon, diverse experience. And that's William and Catherine, good GMAT and diverse. Okay. So actually, you know what? I'll also give it to Rennie. You put it in two different boxes, but you got the idea, and I hadn't said it fast enough. All right. So we'll give three. All right, Rachel, you got it. It'll be for Rennie, William, and Catherine. Okay. Okay. Great. Now, I've highlighted here issues that you need to consider when to apply most effectively. The bottom line lesson, and the one that I really hope you leave with, is that it's a very personal decision, and it really depends on individual goals and circumstances. And that's what I've tried to illustrate in this webinar. I've said it, and I've tried to illustrate it with the case studies that I gave. It can be hard to be objective about oneself, and it can be hard to avoid the confirmation bias that we all have. And as I said at the beginning of the webinar, in a group setting, I can raise issues to think about, I can give you guidelines, but I can't go beyond that until you take advantage of the expertise and experience that exists on accepted staff. One-on-one, we can explore with you and help you develop an action plan based on your responses to, among other questions, but certainly the following ones. How important is it to you to start your MBA in September versus waiting a year? How important is it to you and the achievement of your career goals to go to a top MBA program? How important is it to you that you apply once or just one more time? Remember, when I started, I asked you to test your hand-raising skill by asking how many of you are here because the MBA is going to whisk you on the way to the career of your dreams. When you attend a webinar like this, or when you apply or you read about MBAs, you're not doing this just to get into school X or decide whether to apply round 3 or fall of 2019. You're really deciding on a route to the best career for you, a change in your future, joining a superior network, perhaps. There are all kinds. It's much bigger than this round 3 versus next year. That's really what you're looking at. And we would love to guide you in this part of it, though, in choosing when and where to apply, and then in optimizing your MBA applications that you apply confidently and successfully. We've already advised thousands of successful MBA applicants in our almost 25 years in business. And we've advised them to apply to the right schools at the right time and in an optimal way. And we know it's not easy. You're juggling work, life, family, community service, and applications. It's hard to know where to apply and how to apply. We get it. We've been there many, many times with hundreds, with actually thousands at this point, of clients. Now, when you engage with Accepted, you will get access to expertise and experience. You'll reduce your stress. You'll get the confidence that comes when you know you're working with a seasoned, dedicated, top-notch pro. You can fix mistakes before they hurt you, and you can optimize your application. And some may say Accepted is expensive, and we're definitely not a cheap service because of the quality of our staff. But our fees are peanuts compared to the cost of an MBA application, not to mention the cost of reapplication. And there are expenses and less obvious risks associated with not using Accepted. The cost of reapplication I just mentioned is roughly $250 per application, and I'm not talking if you have to retake the GMAT or additional travel expenses for interviews or anything like that. Additional year of reduced pre-MBA earnings. And then there's a potential that you could have gotten into a better program with higher lifetime earnings. The minimum investment to have an hour consultation with us is $325, and a comprehensive package is $4,500 for one school. Every year, we work with applicants who talked to us a year earlier and decided, after taking the do-it-yourself approach and getting rejected, to work with us. They would have been better off working with us initially, and so would you. But enough from me. Let's hear from some Accepted clients. I'm circling back to let you know that I got in off the Yale School of Management waitlist with round 3 admits today. I want to thank you and Natalie for all of your help these past 2 years. I got accepted into all 3 programs I applied to, and received a $20,000 scholarship from my top choice. None of this would have been possible without your help. The service you and your team provided literally just paid for itself. I am extremely grateful. Here's what I'd like you to do after the Q&A. Visit accepted.com/MBA/services. Choose the service that's right for you, get the guidance you need, and apply confidently and effectively. It's now January 16th to be specific. We can still work on your round 3 applications, or we can work with you to optimize your profile so that you're ready to hit the ground running for round 1 applications as they come out in the spring and early summer. Contact us as soon as possible, and we can help you from scratch or review and edit your essays or discuss with you the best way for you to proceed given your profile, what's important to you, and your time frame. Our goal is to guide you individually as we guide the clients you've heard from in optimizing your application. Take these steps to work with an accepted MBA admissions consultant and have the kind of experience and success that these clients have had. Now, if you have questions, I'm happy to take them, and that questions can be about our services or about the material that I presented today. Let me just check one thing here. Okay. There was one consultant who thought she might be able to attend, but it doesn't look like she made it. Nope. Okay, so you're stuck with me. Let's see what other questions you have. I know there are some here. I saw them coming in, and you can post more. Okay, Malini asks, what are obvious diversity elements? I like to think the obvious diversity elements is ethnicity. And it can be that you're from a country that does not send many MBA applicants to U.S. schools. In the United States, it typically means underrepresented minorities that are usually defined as African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Native Americans. But it can also be people from countries that don't send a lot of applicants to MBA schools. That's the most obvious. I like to, and I think most schools really do, talk about diversity in broader terms, okay? And I like to define it as the 3 IDs. The first ID is identity. It's a little corny, but it's a good way to think of it. It'll help you remember it. The first ID is identity, your background, sexual orientation, again, it could be religion, political identity, those kinds of things. The second ID is IDs, okay? The IDs, your deeds, what you've done, achievements, unusual levels of achievements, unusual things that you've done, perhaps personally or in community service, hobbies. You don't have to have swum the English Channel, but achievements in terms of, again, hobbies and extracurricular activities. And the third ID is ideas, a distinctive perspective, approach to life. Perhaps you're always a person that bridges gaps between people. You're the peacemaker, the negotiator, the mediator rather. Or maybe you're the one who has the kind of sense of humor that always breaks up a tense meeting with an appropriate and witty comment. Those are all that would be more in the ideas kind of way. Or you're the very creative type who thinks of something very out of the box and finds a solution to problems. Maybe you're the very quantitative and analytical type. If you're an engineer and you say you're analytical, I'm not sure that's going to quite qualify as diversity, but maybe you're the poet who's very analytical. That would be, or you're the engineer who's also a poet. Those kinds of things contribute to diversity. All right, so Malini, thank you for the question. You probably got more than you bargained for in my answer. Rachel, we also have a post on diversity. Maybe you can share that URL, okay? And that will, I think, give you a lot more information. Thank you for the question. Okay, so we have a lot of other questions here. Okay, let me just look at a few of them. You're very welcome, Malini. Okay, Rini asks, and this is an important question. Do you see a good number of people applying in round 3, round 4? Is the acceptance ratio higher? In general terms, for most schools, the acceptance rate, certainly the elite MBA programs, the acceptance rate is lower round 3 and round 4. We generally see fewer people applying round 3 and round 4. As I mentioned earlier in the webinar, sometimes at schools ranked outside the top 20, applications are more evenly stretched over the 3 rounds, and they actually know that they get people who are not accepted round 1, round 2, at the more elite schools. So there, I think the application ratio between earlier rounds and later rounds is a little bit more even. But at the later rounds, it's at more elite schools rather, the acceptance rate goes down. Okay, let's see. Okay, Andy asks a very good question. Is all community service viewed as a positive? Would AdComs be suspicious of community service that began 2 to 3 months before applying and view it as false hustle? They may think that you started the community service before, because you knew you were applying and you wanted to enhance your application. But I think it's still better to start it 2 to 3 months before you apply than not have any at all, because that means that even when it would benefit you, you didn't do it. Would it be viewed as positively as something that somebody has been doing for a year or two? No. But Andy realized that if you start, let's say you start community service now and you apply in the fall, so you have 6 months of community service roughly when you apply, or you started, whatever, you have a few months. And they realize that you started it because you were about to apply. But maybe you are waitlisted and the actual decision is made in April or May. In the meantime, your involvement in whatever initiative you're taking on has grown. You have more to talk about, more to write about. And suddenly it's not just 2 or 3 months, it's more like a year. And it doesn't look like it was just false hustle anymore. It looks like maybe commitment. There's also the possibility that you have to reapply, in which case there's no question about false hustle. It has turned into commitment. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Is it as valuable as something that you've been doing for the last 3 years? No, but it's more valuable than doing nothing. Okay? All right, let's see. Priscilla asks, you mentioned diversity being a helpful differentiator for round 3. Does that mean that diversity won't be as helpful for round 1 applicants? No, that's not what I'm saying. No, diversity is always helpful. It's a good question, though. I didn't mean to imply that, and I'm very glad that you raised the issue. No, diversity is always helpful. Schools are always looking for diversity. I just think that because the classes are much more crowded and full, the applicant who presents with more diversity is more likely to get accepted round 3 than somebody who doesn't, because they already have people in the class who look just like the person who doesn't bring that to them. I hope I answered your question, Priscilla. All right. Puyan asks, can strong background like work experience, founder of a few businesses, and originality from underrepresented country make a good applicant even with low GMAT in round 3? Which is more important in round 3, background or GMAT? Well, some of the answer would depend on, you're going to hear it depends a lot on how low your GMAT is. And is it balanced, or was it, let's say, English was the weaker part, the verbal score was weaker, but the quant was really good, and you are coming from abroad, and your TOEFL or your IELTS was strong. So there's other things that will go into it. I don't think I can give you a definitive answer about if the GMAT is just a little off round 3, is that going to be overlooked? It would probably depend a little bit on how unique your background really and truly is, and how low that GMAT is. So I can't give you a definite answer. But thank you for the question. It's an interesting one. Okay, wait a second. Arun Kumar asks how schools look if we reapply to them, what they expect reapplication. Okay, well, first of all, you can't reapply in the year in which you applied. So they would be surprised, I think, a little bit if you applied last year, in other words, in the 2017-18 cycle, and only reapplied round 3 of this cycle. They'd be a little bit surprised at that. But I think they would just look at your application on the merits. I believe I remember that you are in India, and again, coming from India, that is a group that's very well represented, if not overrepresented in the applicant pool, and you could have visa problems. So you'd have those issues to consider if you were going to think of a round 3 application. But thank you for the question. Let's see what else we have here. Hi, Linda. I'm from India, male engineer, 710 GMAT, 5 years of experience, Century, Harman, and TCS. I'm looking for B schools such as Stanford, Booth, Wharton. Should I need to write GMAT again and apply in first round, or will I apply in round 3? You didn't mention your grade percentage, which will also be a factor, but based solely on the information provided, I would encourage you to retake the GMAT, raise your GMAT score, and apply next year, given the information you have and given the schools that you're aiming for. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Is there a case for applying? This is a really good question from Raj. Is there a case for applying in round 3 and, if denied, applying again in round 1 of next year? Yeah, there's a case for that. The difficulty with that is when you reapply, most schools want to see growth and change and improvement. And it's harder to show that if you apply in March or April than you apply again in September. Sometimes it's possible. And at the same time, obviously you're getting your application in earlier, but that's a little bit the difficulty if you take that route. Okay. Krishna asks, I'm American with Indian heritage. Do you think I'm being compared against international students from India? No. No, you'll be compared against American students with similar backgrounds, similar work experience. And again, they're going to look and see, are you going to add to the diversity of the class? And don't think of diversity just in, again, the ethnic terms. Yes, it's part of it, but it's not the only part of it. That's what I tried to illustrate earlier, and Rachel already posted for you the blog post where we talk about diversity and give examples, and there's a checklist you can download with other ideas, and it basically lays out the 3 IDs. So that's in the chat window. Okay, let's see. William asked, you mentioned that aiming too high was one reason to perhaps apply next year. Top 20 schools already selective. Are they even more strict in round 3? In other words, is it not worth applying round 3 to a top school, barring perfect grades and background? Actually, what I said is that a lot of people, when they aim too high in rounds 1 and round 2, they apply round 3 to lower ranked programs. That was what I was implying there, or talking about there. If you are aiming at top 20 schools, especially in the top 10, like U.S. News top 10 programs, and you have, what I tried to illustrate, you might have come a little late, was if you really want to go this year, you have a competitive profile in terms of grades and score, and they don't have to be perfect, but they should be preferably at or above the average in the school provides. You know why you want to go to the particular schools. You have a good, you have a solid goal that makes sense given both your background and the program that you're applying to. Then, especially if you have some diversity elements also in your background, and you want to know the truth, most people do, because we're all individuals, then I would encourage you to apply. If you're willing to go for a reduced chance of acceptance. If you want to apply, reduce the chance that you're going to have to reapply, and you really only want to apply once, and you want to, and you don't mind waiting, maybe there's a promotion coming, maybe you're really enjoying your work, then I would encourage you to wait to round 2. So I don't know, William, am I answering your question or not? And I think you might have been one of the people, I don't remember now if you were one of the winners. I can also discuss this more. Or you can have a consultation. Let's see. Rosh has another good question. How does round 3 application figure in applying for part-time executive MBA programs? This is a really good question because the whole round 3 stigma is much less for, or disadvantage is, okay, great, William. The round 3 disadvantage doesn't exist really in the part-time and executive MBA. So that was a very important question. Thank you for asking it. Okay. Priscilla asks a very good question. Can you clarify what is considered a top 20 school? Financial Times, Economist, Poets and Quants all vary in their rankings. I'm asking specifically about Carnegie Mellon, UNC, Ken Flagler, and Ross. Okay, Ross is definitely a top 20. Ken Flagler and UNC are probably also top 20, but I would usually use US News when I talk about top 20. I sometimes say that there are about 15 schools in the top 10. But because of the rankings, and that term is definitely not a scientific one. Hope that helped, okay? Justin asks, does being a product manager for a fintech firm count as professional diversity? It definitely could, because there's a lot of interest in fintech right now. But also realize it's not just your title, it's kind of what you accomplished as a product manager for a fintech firm, what you contributed to the firm, what results can you show, what impact you've had. It's not just the title. Definitely fintech is pretty interesting and would attract some attention, but it's that other element also. Okay. Andy asks, how much of a hit is it to have a gap in employment history? Is it overlooked if you can show growth in a role following said gap? That is a good question. Also, you folks are asking wonderful questions here. It all depends on what was the reason for the gap. If it was, you were doing something fantastic that just wasn't a job, you were traveling around the world, and then you went into this great job, there won't be any hit. If you were laid off for cause, that's a little bit harder. If you got sick, unfortunately, and are now fully recovered, and then went into a tremendous job after that, then you'll be fine. So it's one of those it depends answers, which is probably less than satisfying. You're most welcome, Raj and Priscilla. See your thank yous now. Let's see. Somebody who left asked a good question. I'm going to answer it. Do reapplicants have less chance to be admitted compared to first-time applicants? No. With the exception of INSEAD. INSEAD, I think, is a little harder on reapplicants. But otherwise, reapplicants are viewed. Sometimes some schools look at them positively because they're showing more determination, more commitment to a particular school. But with a possible exception of INSEAD, reapplicants are not, at no disadvantage and perhaps at an advantage. All right. Somebody asks, I'm a mechanical engineer, graduate, second class, GMAT 680, former investment banker working in business development at an energy company, 5 years experience. Post-MBA goal is becoming an investment officer at an energy-focused fund. I also believe I'll get excellent recommendations from former and current managers. I'm a Black LGBT candidate in Cape Town, South Africa. Would I be considered a good diversity candidate? I don't anticipate any visa issues. Yes. Okay. Okay. Here's one more. If you got a new job, same company during round one, would it be beneficial to get more experience with a current team and apply later, or is it fine to apply now? I'm not sure I understand what you're saying here. If you got a job round one, meaning fall 2018, or if you're anticipating getting a job round one, fall 2019. I'm just not sure I'm understanding the question. So maybe Brad, try and explain it, and I'll come back to it. You're most welcome, Catherine. Let's see. Okay, some of you are posting these very long statements and questions, and I really can't. You're basically asking almost for a mini consultation here, and I really can't get into it that much. This is not the forum for that kind of thing. I would encourage you to sign up for a consultation, and again, you have on your screen where you can do that. If you were to click on this, just click on admissions consulting and go from there. Let's see. Andy asks, if reapplicants can be viewed as having more determination and potentially having an advantage, with the exception of INSEAD, is it worth applying to a top 1-2 choices in round 3 of this year if you fall more into the wait for next year's round 1 bucket? I wouldn't go that far because, as I mentioned earlier, when you reapply, the schools are really looking for growth and improvement. And yes, applying earlier would on some level be growth and improvement, but I don't think it would really it's worth having that advantage of showing determination or commitment is going to outweigh the where's the growth, where's the improvement kind of thing. So I would not apply solely with the hope of having that advantage. Okay. All right. I think it's time to bring this to a close. So I want to, first of all, thank you for coming. I want to thank you for your excellent questions, your participation, your time, your attention. And now I want to share a final thought and story. The thought: you are about to invest out of pocket over $100,000 in your MBA education and approximately 21 months of your life to obtain an MBA. And I haven't counted the opportunity cost. The purpose of this investment is to enhance your professional opportunities such that you have increased earning capacity and better personal rewards, and that will far exceed the cost of the MBA, both out of pocket and opportunity. And per GMAT data, for the overwhelming majority of MBA graduates, this is true. I think the satisfaction level is well over 90%. Given the stakes and the benefits of an MBA, doesn't it make sense for you to invest a few $100s, and again, our minimum is $325, to get into the best school for you? And here's a story of one client who had some special circumstances when he applied, not necessarily bad, but definitely different. And he wrote, Linda and Jennifer, thank you so much for your personalized help with every step of my application. I decided to accept the GSB's offer to begin my MBA this year. I am humbled and grateful for how you went the extra mile to advise me. It means a lot to me and has left a deep impression on me that you continue to invest so much of your valuable time in advising. Thanks again, Michael. And let's face it, Everyone has special circumstances. You're all different, and this was part of the trouble in answering some of your questions. And you all deserve the individual guidance that will stop you from spinning your wheels and help you to optimize your applications so that you can get into the MBA program that will skyrocket your career, whether it be round 3 or round 4 or next year. Engage with a guide who will kindly give you insightful, trustworthy, and necessary feedback to help you get into your favorite schools so that you can pursue your dream career. To get that guidance, follow the steps on the screen, which are the steps taken by all the applicants you've heard from. They were once in your shoes, nervously considering when and where and how to apply. They sought acceptance help and successfully navigated the MBA application process to acceptance. They applied confidently and successfully. They're now pursuing their dreams. Do as they did and pursue yours too.